Okay, so welcome back. We decided to have a separate segment for this very special part of the animation module of Photoshop. So we're gonna, commence that right now. So here we go with the second part of class number 12. This is week number 13. We're continuing with the animation segment in Adobe Photoshop. All right, very exciting, and let's get to it. Just gonna share my screen here. As always, let me know if you can see my screen. So we're on point here. So we're going to get into this module number 13, which is motion design. And we just simply concluded everything in the module 12. Next week, we'll continue this module, and that'll be pretty much the end of the semester. Okay. We'll have one class left after that, and that's usually reserved for presentations, makeup classes, extensions, that kind of stuff. So, it's good to have extra time left over our hands for sure. And we're going to be talking about that next week. So let's now get into this. You might want to download this folder over here. It's called Web Ready folder with animation. It just helps us save some time in terms of collecting resources. So go ahead and download this right now. On the desktop is fine. Okay. Once you've downloaded that, just again to recap earlier, we talked about the motion design assignment. Aside from the website I showed you earlier, which is part of your composite project, this is your motion design assignment slash exercise for this class. All right. Actually, I apologize. This is the actual finished example that we have. So when I go ahead and download this one, that's fine. In some classes, I do have the assignments mixed in with my modules. For this one, I don't. I keep it separate, which is better, if you ask me, because all your stuff is here. So speaking of the assignments, it's under the class exercises slash assignments. And I give you one every other week. Technically, if you notice the pattern, there's 5 in total. And this is the last one, motion design for web. So I talked about this earlier very quickly. We're going to be creating a basic animation, okay? In my other class, the web productions technique, I give them an actual advert to make, like a YouTube or a Facebook animation that they can use for social media, which is very popular these days. Like this skill right now can land you a job in this industry because a lot of professional designers use this very same skill set to be a powerful presence on the internet, social media, YouTube, all these other channels. People don't want to see boring photos anymore. They want to see something move, something a little more exciting. So that's where videos are known to have more attention grabbing algorithm than images. So basic animation in Photoshop, okay, of any choice. So pick a theme. You can do an ad or you can do something fun, and you're going to incorporate these things, which I'm going to do right now. Okay. Again, this is doing 2 weeks from now, so everything's going to be due at the same week. Okay. Just to give you more pressure. All right. All right. So go ahead. Let's go ahead and get started. So, like I asked you before, download these resources here. You can click on both of them. That's fine. And I don't know if I clicked on this one. I can't remember. Web Ready 1. I think I did. Yes. Let me open this folder here. I'll extract it. All right, so this is an Air Miles with Air Canada combo advertisement we made using these resources. So what it entails is basically a picture of an Airbus or an airplane of Air Canada, right? Or just an Airbus. I have a picture of an Air Miles logo. I don't know if you're familiar with Air Miles. There's also what's Aeroplan. Okay, there's other programs that they have. Then there's Air Canada, which uses the Aeroplan, but now I think that's Aeroplan now. It used to be Air Miles before. Anyways, so we're going to create an advert promoting these services of people perhaps collecting points or travel miles when they use these programs. Okay. So just some ingredients to us to work with, so we don't scavenge the internet to waste time. This is the web ready folder.zip. This one also is what was this one here? Just to double check. Web ready folder with animation. Don't want to make sure I mix these up. I could have had, if I apologize if I did, but just grab this folder here. I think it's one of these. This is the one we need. Okay. Yeah. So motion design for web. Web ready folder. I think this was like a review folder. I just put it up there. So I do apologize if this is a repeated thing. Just delete it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to just get rid of it Oh, no, never mind. It's an example. That's right. With the animation that we did, we incorporated the actual header portion with it. That's what it is. Now remember. So just to show you quickly, when you extract that folder, you will see, an index HTML file with the images we just simply sliced earlier, right? And this became an actual HTML file. And we replaced this header with an animation. That's what we did. So just an extra supplementary file of a website design. Okay, that's fine. No harm to have this there. All right, now I got my folders all sorted out. Let's go ahead and start with the Photoshop setup. So I'm going to put this one away. This is where we just concluded the multiple page extension of the mock-up for the website. It's important that you do the prototyping in Photoshop, and then you can even take this to Adobe XD or Figma and make it interactive and stuff. So this is happening next semester. I'm going to put this away for now. Watch the video, the previous video, to see how this was all set up. We did a really nice job doing this. This video will strictly focus on the animation, so it's nice to have it separate. I'll save it one more time. All right, so here we go. File, okay, or new. File, new. Okay, Photoshop will ask you all these questions again. What are we making? Are we doing a photo? Are we doing a print? Are we doing a web thing, a mobile? We're doing film and video. Now, next week, I'm going to show you this one, because next week we're going to create a video commercial for YouTube using the same animation techniques I'm going to show you today. When I say same, I mean similar in approach, but different in execution, because there's a timeline feature that was released in Photoshop some years ago, which can really take control of this feature here. But for now, since we're doing animation for the web, we're going to stick with the web option. It's a little more suited for that. And we're going to just customize the size over here. If you can see, there's different web banner sizes. This is what makes money on the internet, like the web banners, right? Pay per clicks, Google ads, all that kind of stuff. So if you look at web banners sizes, right? You can see here a lot of them have specific dimensions. And there's no set size. Look, there's so many different sizes you can use. Look, 728, 90, 300, whatever the website structure is, and these change over time. And advertisers pay big dollars to have these ads on the websites, right? And what better than to have an actual animated banner, not just a picture of a product, right? So animated promo gifts. I'm going to show you some stuff that's out there right now. Okay. All right, so stuff like this. Right? A quick little two-frame switch, two product switching back and forth from one to the other. This is a two-frame animation, very simple to execute, very effective as well, though, because you can see how this, creates some kind of an attention grabber. This one doesn't do much. Some of these are not animated. Animated GIFs. Sometimes if I move the words around, I get better results. All right, this, I think is this here. All right, these are moving there. Some of them are very cheap and simple. This is more like a specific software. We can't do shape shifting in Photoshop like some other programs can do. Um, I've seen some other things here. Here we go. Yeah, so this is kind of stuff we can do, like the picture switching different products or showcasing and stuff. This is just image swapping. It's very simple. We're going to take this a step further. We're going to do not just, image swapping. We'll do an actual animation. So it's going to be more exciting than this. This is kind of cool because the clock keeps ticking. See? You can even right click and save this animation and break it up and see how they did it. You can actually do this. So if you save this to the desktop, okay, I can have this animation, even this one. I can right click, save this to the desktop as well. Now, GIF is the format for a graphic image sequence, and this is what makes it special because it's an animation. So those examples I just quickly looked up on the internet, and I'm going to show you now how they convey into, translated meaningful. Let me just cancel this for a second. I want to show you how this works. All right, so this is that one. This is this one. So if I press the space bar on the Mac, okay, it's going to play the animation for me. This looks pretty simple, but you can notice how the clock keeps ticking every 5 minutes, okay, or every hour. Okay, so it just keeps ticking, ticking, and ticking. This one just keeps playing. The dessert keeps changing, right? And there's 2, 3, 4. There's like 4 or 5 frames. Now, if you double click on these, if you have a Mac, it'll open up the actual file and you can see the actual frames. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 frames. 4 frames to create this beautiful animation. And all you're doing is swapping this image here in the middle because the 0 represents the dessert. Extra 60% off. This one I believe might be more. Just simply double. I think the PC might be able to do the same thing. It opens up some kind of a default picture viewer. And this represents, I'm assuming it might go to 12 because there's 12 hours in the clock in the rotational sequence. And then there's all the frames for it. Just see the little line here move in different positions. So some of these are strategically made, and marketing is the key, and you want to convey the message and deliver that attention grabber, presentation to uh, promote the product or the service. Animation goes a long way. So these are some of the examples. They vary in size. Like this is pretty big here, and so is that one. It might be actually the same, a little different in size. But I showed you different ways that you can kind of research this. So now to make one from scratch on our end, we're going to use Photoshop. Okay, we're going to create a new document, and we're going to go to Web. All right, and we're going to customize this size. So if we're going to put this going across the whole website, if it's like, 1400 pixels, we'll make it 1400 pixels. But usually it's smaller than that. So I'm going to go with perhaps, maybe like 900 pixels. And the height, I'll make it quite generous. I'll do 350. So it's quite a tall height there, 900, 350. Like I said, there's no fixed size. So you can just go under 1,000 pixels, you'll be okay. Don't go past 1,000. I'm talking width or height. Anywhere like this should work. 72 DPI, RGB color mode, of course. Hit the create button, and there it is. Now, this gave me an artboard. I'll be honest with you, artboards don't work really well when it comes to animation. So I should have taken off the artboard checkbox when I did this. When I did this, I should have had this thing checked off, not on. So please do that. Make sure this is off because then you can't really export the animation properly. It'll, especially if you have stuff coming from the outside, I mean, it'll still work. But as far as avoiding certain conflicts, it's better to have it off. Okay, just trust me on that one. So I'm gonna just convert this to normal by simply right clicking and ungroup artboards there. Okay, just like I showed you earlier. So it's a simple frame artboard rectangle. Okay, no artboard. All right, so now let's do our very first animation here. We're gonna render some clouds. Let's make something from scratch so we have some fun, okay, like we do in the past. So I'm going to change these colors to maybe cloud colors. I'll change this to blue, and the background will be white. So I got blue and white, a mix of foreground and background colors. Because those colors are selected, if I go under filter or render clouds, it'll render clouds just like this, right? Now it varies because this is such a random filter that if I run it again, it'll be random every single time, millions of times. So it's a very cool way to render textures. A lot of textures actually derive from this very same method. They render some kind of a filter of a cloud texture, and then they come up with, something else like water or chrome or something. All right, maybe I can show you some of that stuff another time. So I have these clouds now, and now we're going to bring in, I don't know, something maybe flying across. Let's go bring in that airplane picture that I have. So I'm going to go File, Place Embedded. I'm going to go right to the folder here, the Air Miles with Air Canada folder. I'm going to bring in this airplane. All right. I'm going to place it right here, press Enter, and move the airplane from the left side of my artboard because it's going to come from here. It's going to fly across. Now, if you do a classical animation, like I used to teach the multimedia class years ago, we did the bouncing ball project, very popular. Sheridan College is another great school that teaches animation. A lot of my colleagues used to work in animation too. And we would carry the same principles. We would create a template, we would create the keyframes and have the animation follow the keyframes and go all the way across. We just have a simple airplane here flying across. So we're going to keep this, pretty steady, but I'm going to purposely show you how the difference is between tweening a smooth animation and tweening a custom animation. Because if this was a bouncing ball, it's a bouncing ball. You got to do the laws of gravity and keep it nice and kind of sequential with that. With the airplane, it's simple. We'll just simply fly across frame by frame, just like classical animation is done today. Like I'm looking at The Simpsons or other cartoons, they're still in production, and they have a whole animation studio of, dozens and dozens of animators collaborating together to create these, hard, you know, produced, a lot of effort into these animation episodes, right? So it's a lot of work being put into this stuff. And with this, there's no difference. The only difference is we're not drawing this frame by frame with a pencil or an artboard from scratch. Rather than we're using something called used to be called the animation. There's no longer there. If you have an animation, older version of Photoshop, look for the animation panel. If not, look for the timeline. Timeline replace the animation terminology from the menu because that's exactly what it is. It makes sense. That is the timeline. Because we're keeping this very simple, and next week I'll get into the more advanced stuff. I want you to do this. I want you to click on this thing called here. Make sure it's on frame animation. If you don't see it, just click on this very button right here, create frame animation. I want you to click on that. When you click on that, it'll convert this into a frame animated timeline. Okay. I'm also going to make this a little bigger. Panel options. Let's make it nice and large. You don't have to do this just for me to show you. So now I have my first frame. When I was a lot younger back in my days, I used to do a little flip book animation. My mom would bring back these nice, uh, you know, um, calendars or notepads, like the sticky pads, and I would like draw a picture on each one and flip it to the next page and do the same thing and the same thing. So when you flip the actual booklet, it becomes a flip animation. Okay, let me see if I can do classic flip animation. Right? There we go. This kind of stuff. Right? You draw a picture on every little frame and you flip it. Pretty cool. Takes time, but you really appreciate it when it's all, said and done, right? This is different. We're not drawing stuff from scratch. We're just going to animate each frame to a different position and we're going to play it. It's a lot easier now, especially, thanks to the programs that we have, especially Photoshop. The setup's the same. You got your layers over here, your timeline down here. We call this the concept of space to time. Space is accumulated vertically on the layer panel. Time is distributed horizontally on the timeline panel. So space and time. The next dimension. There we go. It's like the Twilight Zone episode. We're going to go over here and create a new layer right here. Sorry, duplicate current frame. That's the proper term. This little button here, I wish there was a shortcut, but I can't figure one out unless you customize your keyboard. Duplicates the current frame. So when you click on that, what happens is you create frame number 2. Frame number 2 is like that next little flip book animation I just showed you, and you draw the next sequence. In this case, I'm going to grab this airplane and slightly move it down this way. Not too much, because I do want it to have some kind of smoothness to it as well. I'm going to go back down here and repeat the same steps again. Click again, move it down here, click again, move it down here. So it's very sequential and repetitive, but it's important that you do one step at a time. You click over here, and you act on the artboard second. So first the timeline, and then your canvas. Okay, let's call it the canvas, not the artboard, because I purposely don't have an artboard. There we go. And you keep doing that. I know it's tedious, but it's well worth the effort, because then you're going to see how nicely it'll pay off. Yes, of course, the smaller increments you do it, the smoother the animation will be. The more increments you give it, the choppier the animation is going to come out. So make sure you keep that in mind when you do this, and eventually you'll have a very nice animation setup. I'm going to just keep doing this here. Look, I'm at 18 frames already, right? 19, 20, 21. Okay, so now I have 21 frames. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I play them each one, they get to play as they are. I save this as a GIF. I put it on the web. It becomes an animated GIF. To give it a playback to see what it looks like, I press this little play button down on the bottom corner. And by default, the animation will loop. It's a choppy airline. It's good. Right? No turbulence for those passengers. Now this is playing at 0-second delay. That means it's playing straight through. It's even going to go a lot faster in the browser. So my suggestion to you is to select all the frames from one to the next. So shift select, that means 21 to frame 1. Instead of 0 seconds, as you see here, all the frames are selected. You don't want to do this on every frame. You select all the frames together, and then you go ahead and make them a 0.1 second, which is 100 milliseconds. Very, very small delay, because no delay is 0 seconds as it is right now. 0.1 is 100 milliseconds, which means right now it's going to play like this. Okay, a little slower and easier to digest. And that's enough. Now, if I wanted to interrupt the animation and stop it here and do something very significant, right? Then I can delay this purposely for like 1 second, a whole second, and then it'll keep playing. So you have that control, which is quite nice in Photoshop. It's simple and very effective. So now it's going to pause for a second and then continue. Okay, pause for a second and continue, and so on and so forth. So it's very nice and, very, elaborate how you can basically come here and think about all the layers you can put together, all the animation. Every time I introduce this topic, students have lots of fun with this. I had a student, I think he did an animation, he was an anime fan, and he did a whole anime thing, like a fight scene, I wish I can find the file. I can show it to you. People really take this to the next level. It's a lot of work, and concentration, but you have all the tools that you need. We have all the memory now. Before, Photoshop would crash because there was memory requirements and the playhead and stuff. We're talking like 15 years ago here, right? So right now things are a lot better. All right, what happens next is we go to File. We save it as basically this is called frame animation. I'll save it on the computer. And it's a Photoshop file. That won't do us any good for the web. So for the web, you have to do what's called export, save for web. Just remember this. And from here, we select a GIF. And GIF is the only format that'll support the animation. Okay. Now the colors are perceptual, selective, and adaptive, and strict. These all work. I'll just leave it perceptual as default. Transparency is irrelevant because there's no real, there's a background here. But later I'll show you how transparency plays a key role as well. And then you have here, you can just play it, right? You can play it back and forth. You can even select how many times you want this to loop, because right now it's going to loop forever. It's going to keep looping and looping and looping. However, I can only play it once, or I can only play it 3 times. I can loop it 3 times and have it stop. So you can really control the playback as you export the animation to your file. Now, keep in mind, GIF only supports 256 colors, so you're not going to get the smoothie things, but it looks pretty good. Over the years, it's gotten better. So it does look a little grainy, but that's how the GIF is. The size will be 357 kilobytes. Not bad. It's less than a half a meg. And considering the size and the duration, I think it's pretty good. Let's go ahead and hit the save button, and let's kind of save the animation into our folder. Now, keep in mind, you're not saving HTML. We're doing images only, okay? Just in case you have that on from last week, which I did. I'll save this onto my desktop as images only, frame animation, not GIF. Save. So if I put this down now, and I look into my desktop here, there's the animated GIF. Let's press the space bar and play our animation. And it's going to pause 1 second in the middle, play the rest all the way through. And this is how effective this tool is. Very, very cool. Sky's the limit, as they say, right? All right. Now I'm going to show you a better way to do this. Okay. Yes, there's a better way, of course. There's always a better way, right? So a better way would be to actually incorporate what's called a timeline. So I'm going to create a new file to demonstrate this next part. Okay, I'll say this one more time. And the new file is going to be, I'll make it the same size, okay? This time I'll click off the artboard so I don't remember to do it again. This is it here. So I'm going to generate the same clouds. So filter, render clouds. It's right here. You can just do it again from scratch. I'm going to bring in the same ingredients. Yes, I'll make it a frame animation, just like I did before. So the same steps I'm repeating here. So place embedded, do embedded. If you do linked, you can change it and stuff, right? So here's the airplane again. Make it a tad bigger. Press enter. I'm going to move it all the way to the left. The difference is now, instead of doing it frame by frame, like the classical animation, studios do it, I'm going to do it more advanced. I'll do what's called a tween method. The tween term comes from in between. In between what? In between this frame and the next frame. So if this is frame number 1, and I duplicate it to frame number 2, what I'm going to do in this one is consciously know that I'm going to create the difference in between as I move this all the way to the other side. I'm going to do what's called point A to point B and let Photoshop figure out the steps in between for me. Okay. So what you do is you do A and B from one to the next one. You select both frames. You click on this little button here. You got to look for it. It's called Tweens Animation Frames. It looks like a little shooting star. And that'll open up this menu, which will give you the option to tweens the selection, which is the airplane. Yes. How many frames you want to add in between. Now remember, the other one had 21 frames. So for this one, I'll do 20. 20 frames between the two will be total of 22. All the layers will be animated. Now here's the parameters. Position is the only one that I'm doing. I'm just moving it left to right. Later on, I'll show you how to do opacity and effects. Next week, we'll get into this stuff. I know we're approaching the end time of the class here, but I'll try to hurry this part up because we're almost done. And like I said, next week we'll have another class of animation. I'm going to cover some of the other particulars, okay? So for now, it's just this one. You don't have to worry about this. Just leave it all as is, and you're good to go. When I press the play button now, it'll be a lot smoother and faster because it does all the stuff for me. I don't have to do anything else, okay? All right, so this is a good thing to practice for now. Okay, next week I'm going to get into the other elements. I'm going to put in the logo, put in the effects, the glow and stuff. So we're going to definitely make this more conclusive and convert this into an ad. But for starters, this is the two methods that you want to learn. The frame by frame method, which is still used. Like the ones I showed you earlier, those examples were frame by frame. Every layer was visible on and off with a different dessert. For this one, we did both. We did that one and we did the motion. Okay, so that's the takeaway here. And again, if you do a save as, this will be called frame animation 2. Okay, and I'm gonna do what's called save for web. Same thing, GIF. Okay, this is 400 megs, a little bigger. It's got an extra frame or two. I'll save this in there. Save it one more time. So what happens is now when I play the second one versus the first one, this is the first one, right? This is the second one. A lot smoother. Less effort, better results. If you want to do linear animation, this works great. If you want to do custom animation, you use the first option because then you can control how many frames, movements, and stuff. Like these are all, frame by frame animations. This is frame by frame animation, and so is this. But the last one was motion tween, which is what the more advanced animation software the capabilities are. All right, so that kind of segues our lesson into animation. I hope I explained enough for you to tickle your curiosity and to go forward. Maybe come up with a theme for now. I don't expect you to have this just finished yet, but for next week, we're gonna make sure this is already well in motion. Maybe I'll give you some time on the last day to finish this thing up too. Okay. So having said that, I'm gonna wrap this segment up. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this animation part exciting, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So bye for now, and I'll see you later.
Have a good one.